There's a brutal truth about aging that no one likes to talk about. It's this: as you get older, people leave, friends drift away, some pass on, others become unrecognizable, lost in the fog of their own struggles. And if you're not careful, if you haven't structured your life properly, you might find yourself alone. Not just alone, but miserably alone. And yet, paradoxically, there are those who reach old age and thrive. They live joyfully, even in solitude. They understand something most people don't. Friendship in old age is not about quantity, but quality. It's not about desperately clinging to the past, but embracing the present with wisdom, strength, and grace. As people grow older, they often experience a shift in their social lives that can feel unsettling. The large social circles of youth, built on shared experiences, convenience, and proximity, gradually shrink. People move away, priorities change, and some friendships prove to be circumstantial rather than deeply rooted. Many individuals enter old age expecting to maintain the same level of social interaction they had in their younger years, only to find that the sheer number of friends has dwindled. This realization can be discouraging if one equates a fulfilling social life with the number of people around them. However, the truth is that friendship in old age is not about collecting acquaintances, but about cultivating deep, meaningful connections with a few select individuals. This shift requires a fundamental change in perspective. When young, friendships often form effortlessly due to shared environments, school, work, or hobbies. In old age, however, friendships must be intentional and purposeful. At this stage of life, time and energy become more valuable than ever, meaning one must be highly discerning about whom they invest in. Superficial relationships that once provided entertainment or temporary companionship no longer suffice. Instead, relationships that are built on mutual understanding, respect, and shared values take precedence. Aging offers a unique advantage: wisdom. With years of experience, people develop a clearer sense of who they are and what they need in relationships. The friendships that endure are those that provide intellectual stimulation, emotional support, and moral alignment. It is far better to have one or two true friends than to be surrounded by a dozen people who offer nothing of real substance. Seeking depth rather than breadth in relationships ensures that the time spent with others is fulfilling rather than draining. This also means letting go of relationships that no longer serve a positive purpose. Many struggle with this, holding on to toxic or unfulfilling friendships out of fear of solitude. However, loneliness is not about the absence of people. It is about the absence of meaning. A person surrounded by shallow acquaintances can feel lonelier than someone who enjoys their own company and has one or two genuine friends. Old age should not be a time of social desperation, but of social refinement. The goal is not to maintain an extensive network, but to nurture deep, valuable connections that stand the test of time. True friendship is about quality, not quantity, and understanding this makes aging a more enriching experience. Friendships do not remain static throughout life. They evolve based on circumstances, priorities, and personal growth. When people are younger, friendships are often a product of shared environments. School, work, social activities, and even parenthood create natural opportunities to form connections. These relationships require little effort to maintain because they are reinforced by daily or frequent interaction. However, as people age, the dynamics of friendship change drastically. Retirement, relocation, health issues, and family obligations all contribute to a reduction in regular social contact. The friendships that were once effortless now require deliberate effort to sustain. One of the most difficult realizations in old age is that many friendships were built on convenience rather than deep emotional or intellectual bonds. When the external circumstances that held them together disappear, so does the relationship. This can lead to feelings of disappointment or even betrayal as people come to understand that not all connections were as strong as they once seemed. However, this realization is not necessarily negative. It provides an opportunity to reassess which relationships are truly meaningful and which ones are best left in the past. The friendships that endure into old age tend to be those that are based on shared values, intellectual curiosity, and mutual respect. They are no longer held together by circumstance, but by conscious effort. These relationships thrive when both individuals continue to invest in each other's lives, offering emotional support, wisdom, and companionship. Unlike the friendships of youth, which may have been based on shared activities or common struggles, mature friendships are often more profound. They are characterized by honest conversations, mutual growth, and the ability to challenge one another intellectually and morally. As friendships evolve, so must the individual's approach to maintaining them. In youth, friendships form naturally, but in old age, they must be actively nurtured. This means reaching out, making time for meaningful conversations, and being willing to adapt to the changing needs of both parties. It also means letting go of relationships that have become one-sided or unfulfilling. Not every friendship is meant to last a lifetime, and understanding this can lead to a healthier, more fulfilling social life. Instead of mourning the loss of superficial connections, older individuals should focus on cultivating relationships that bring real value to their lives. Friendships in old age may be fewer in number, but they have the potential to be richer, more profound, and far more rewarding than those formed in youth. Many people fear being alone, but the truth is that solitude itself is not the problem. It is how people experience it that determines whether it becomes a source of suffering or strength. In old age, the distractions that once filled life begin to fade. Careers end, children grow up, and social circles shrink. This can leave people feeling isolated and uncertain, particularly if they have spent most of their lives relying on others for their sense of purpose and identity. However, those who learn to enjoy their own company find that solitude is not a burden, but an opportunity for deep self-discovery and personal growth. Loneliness is often mistaken for physical isolation, but it is actually the absence of meaning. A person can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely if their relationships lack depth, while another can spend much of their time alone and yet feel deeply fulfilled. The key difference lies in the quality of one's inner life. Those who develop a strong relationship with themselves, who cultivate curiosity, discipline, and a sense of purpose, do not suffer in solitude. Instead, they find it enriching. In contrast, those who have spent their lives avoiding self-reflection often struggle when faced with solitude. They may seek external validation, fill their days with distractions, or desperately cling to relationships that no longer serve them. This is not companionship, it is dependency. The healthiest relationships are formed not out of fear of being alone, but from a place of self-sufficiency. When a person enjoys their own company, they naturally attract others who respect and appreciate them, rather than merely seeking to escape their own loneliness. Developing comfort with solitude requires intentional effort. It means structuring one's life with purpose, whether through intellectual pursuits, creative endeavors, or contributions to the community. Reading, writing, learning new skills, or engaging in meaningful work all provide a sense of fulfillment that does not rely on the presence of others. Physical health also plays a role. A strong body supports a strong mind, making it easier to maintain independence and confidence. The ability to be alone without feeling lonely is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop. It eliminates the desperation that leads to weak or unfulfilling relationships and allows for deeper, more meaningful connections with those who genuinely matter. By learning to enjoy their own company, people not only free themselves from loneliness, but also become more valuable companions to others. Many people assume that friendship is something that happens naturally, that meaningful relationships will always be there simply because they have existed for years. But in reality, friendship is not a passive experience. It is an ongoing responsibility. The quality of one's social life in old age is largely determined by the effort and investment they put into relationships throughout their lives. Those who lack strong friendships later in life often fail to recognize that they may not have been the kind of friend worth keeping. Friendship is built on trust, loyalty, and reciprocity. It is not about convenience or proximity, but about showing up for people in meaningful ways. Many friendships fall apart because one person gives while the other simply takes. Some people believe they are entitled to companionship without considering whether they have truly contributed to the relationship. They expect others to be there for them in hard times, but have not done the same in return. This imbalance leads to resentment and distance, And over time, friendships that once seemed strong begin to fade. Another critical aspect of maintaining lifelong friendships is honest communication. A true friend does not just offer comfort, they challenge and push you to grow. Many people avoid difficult conversations out of fear of conflict, but strong relationships are built on a foundation of honesty. A friend who only tells you what you want to hear is not a true friend. A real friend tells you what you need to hear, even when it is uncomfortable. Those who embrace this kind of openness tend to build lasting relationships that withstand the test of time. Consistency is another key factor. Some people neglect their friendships for years and then expect them to be strong when they suddenly need support. However, relationships, like anything valuable, require maintenance. Small gestures, a thoughtful message, checking in, or being available when someone is struggling, are what keep friendships alive. It is not about grand gestures, but about reliability over time. In old age, those who have been good friends throughout their lives will find that their efforts were not in vain. They will have built relationships that are not just based on nostalgia, but on real mutual respect and shared experiences. Friendship is not something that simply lasts. It is something that must be cultivated with care, effort, and genuine investment. Those who understand this truth will never find themselves truly alone. Many people view solitude as something to be avoided, a condition that signals failure or isolation. But this perspective is not only flawed, it is dangerous. The fear of being alone can drive people to tolerate unfulfilling or even harmful relationships simply to avoid solitude. They mistake company for connection and fill their lives with noise rather than meaning. However, those who learn to embrace solitude discover that it is not a weakness but a profound source of strength. The ability to be content alone is a sign of self-sufficiency and personal maturity. It means that a person does not rely on external validation or constant social interaction to feel whole. Instead, they cultivate a life of purpose, discipline, and intellectual curiosity, which allows them to stand strong regardless of who is around them. This is not to say that relationships are unimportant. Far from it. Rather, it means that relationships should be chosen deliberately, not out of desperation, but out of a genuine desire for connection. A person who is comfortable with solitude is far less likely to tolerate toxic or one-sided friendships. Many people cling to relationships that have long since lost their value, simply because they are afraid of what will happen if they let go. But when solitude is no longer a source of fear, they gain the freedom to walk away from those who drain them, exploit them, or fail to reciprocate effort and care. This is a crucial shift in mindset, because the quality of relationships always outweighs the quantity. Another advantage of mastering solitude is that it makes a person far more attractive to others. People are naturally drawn to those who exude confidence and independence. Someone who is at peace with themselves does not need constant attention, does not impose unrealistic expectations on others, and does not project their own insecurities onto their relationships. Instead, they offer a presence that is grounded, stable, and uplifting, which makes them more desirable as a friend and companion. Solitude is not a punishment. It is an opportunity for self-development. It allows time for reflection, creativity, and the pursuit of personal interests. Those who use their alone time wisely, by reading, thinking, learning, or engaging in fulfilling activities, will find that they are never truly lonely. They will be self-sufficient in their happiness, and as a result, they will naturally form deeper, more meaningful connections with those who share their values and interests. Many people fall into the trap of believing that their social life is something that happens to them, rather than something they actively shape. They blame others for their loneliness, waiting for friendships to form, instead of taking responsibility for building and maintaining meaningful relationships. This passive approach leads to disappointment, frustration, and a growing sense of isolation. The truth is that friendship, like any other aspect of life, requires effort, intentionality, and a willingness to invest in others. Those who take responsibility for their social life will find that they have more control over their relationships and ultimately their happiness. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that friendships from the past will sustain themselves indefinitely. While some connections may last a lifetime, most require consistent effort to remain strong. Checking in, making time for conversation, and showing genuine interest in another person's well-being are essential. It is not enough to simply wait for others to reach out. Taking initiative is key. Those who neglect their friendships for years and then wonder why they feel alone fail to recognize that relationships, like anything valuable, require maintenance. Another important factor is being intentional about the people one surrounds themselves with. In old age, energy and time are too precious to waste on shallow, unfulfilling relationships. It is far better to cultivate a small circle of meaningful connections than to spread oneself thin trying to maintain relationships that no longer bring joy or growth. This means choosing friends based on shared values, mutual respect, and the ability to engage in thoughtful, enriching conversations. Not every relationship is meant to last forever, and part of taking responsibility for one's social life is recognizing when it is time to let go of connections that no longer serve a positive purpose. Many people also underestimate the importance of putting themselves in environments where meaningful friendships can form. Staying socially active, whether through community groups, hobbies, or intellectual pursuits, creates opportunities to meet like-minded individuals. Those who isolate themselves and expect friendships to develop naturally will often find themselves disappointed. Instead, it is necessary to seek out and engage in activities that foster genuine connection. Taking responsibility for one's social life does not mean forcing friendships or seeking validation from others. It means being proactive, choosing relationships wisely, and consistently putting in the effort to nurture the connections that truly matter. By doing so, a person ensures that they are never simply waiting for companionship, but actively creating a fulfilling and meaningful social life.